Ancestry makes the perfect gift to give people because it literally blew my mind.
It's literally like you're giving them something that they would have no knowledge of.
Which is very important because for us to basically be able to find our missing family or to see my indigenous heritage confirmed inside there, it's one gift, but it's so many different things.
Show someone where they came from this holiday season with Ancestry DNA. Now on sale at Ancestry.com.
Hey y'all, Darius Rucker here. You know, a lot of people ask me, what inspires your music? And one of the big things is a strong sense of place. That's why I love my home state of South Carolina and want to share the awesome things it has to offer. From the beautiful mountains down to the sunny coast, it's got it all. Not to mention two of my personal favorites, great golf and amazing food. Come see why I love this place. Visit discoversouthcarolina.com.
Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis, a podcast dedicated to the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. Hey everybody, we are back for part 2 of our discussion about the preliminary hearing for Chad Daybell today. We're going to jump right in. It's been a long day.
Yes.
A really long day. I'm emotionally tired.
Yeah, I know. And it seemed to be, it was like draggy because if they had a sidebar, they had to like leave, or if the courtroom got hot.
Yeah, apparently they must not, I guess with them being where they are, they don't run air conditioner, I guess, as much as people like us in the South.
Well, I think what it might be, it sounds kind of loud.
Yeah.
I think it makes a loud noise, so they have to turn it off maybe.
Oh, I don't know. But I also do believe I saw something about extreme heat up there. So who knows? But there were a lot of quick recesses and yeah. So what are your impressions right now, Fruit Loop?
I think they're in major trouble.
Oh yeah. I think they're in deep.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it's what they have to prove one overt act.
Yeah.
And I think you could stop right now and the judge could say, okay, yeah, there's enough evidence. Let's go.
I think so too. We really haven't learned a ton today that was kind of explosive evidence, but I feel like between the body cam, the 2 different body cam footages that we got to hear, we didn't get to see it. They're not showing any of the evidence on the stream, but luckily we're able to hear it. I think with the body cam and then the big call with Melanie Gibb that ended the day, she will be on cross-examination by the defense tomorrow. We'll talk about all that in a little bit. I thought that was definitely the highlight of the day was that conversation.
Yeah, she kind of gave it right back to Lori. And you notice Chad didn't say anything, but he came on a couple times, but that was it.
Yeah. So we left off, we did our first part of our podcast at the lunch break. So where we left off, Detective Ball was on the stand, but when we came back from lunch, they essentially just said no more questions. So he got right off. And then, no, it was not Detective Ball. It was Stubbs.
Yep.
And then after lunch, Detective Ron Ball came on the stand, and he started just initially talking about being at Chad's residence on June 9th, the day they found the bodies. And he was with the remains when they were taken for autopsy. And 3 other people were with them. I thought it was interesting, and I think we tweeted this out the other day or something. One of the people that was also present was Brenda Dye, who declined to do the autopsy on Tammy Daybell.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of funny not funny, but weird that she came back into the picture on a completely different deaths.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of weird to hear her name when there's been a lot of scrutiny about her choice to not do the autopsy on Tammy.
Yeah, and real quick, while you're talking about Tammy, I don't know if you caught it, but when the detectives went, I think they were standing there and they were talking. Daybell, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like they're going through that whole spill and they're talking about, didn't his wife die? Didn't his wife just die?
Oh, yeah. That was on the body cam footage.
Yeah. So they're, and I'm probably jumping ahead of myself, but you said Tammy and it just came to my mind.
No, that's okay. We do that.
It was kind of funny because they were like, Daybell, didn't he write some books or something?
Yeah.
And like they're going through that whole, spill of stuff. And Lori's sitting there and she's making comments. Yeah, he wrote some books.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And we're going to get to some of the things Lori said in that body cam footage here in just a minute. Detective Ball was talking a lot about some of the evidence that they had gathered. This was, I believe, after they had taken the bodies to the medical examiner. They recovered some garbage bags, some duct tape, and biological evidence, which he said were some swabs and fingernail clippings and that sort of thing, which obviously would have come from JJ, I guess, to see if there was any evidence there.
Yep.
Of a struggle or anything like that.
Hey, you said evidence and it reminded me. We just wanted to remind you guys that this isn't all the evidence. So we've seen some people say stuff about what they're not doing this, they're not saying this, they're not, providing some stuff. And just remember, he doesn't have to tell everything. He doesn't have to prove everything right now.
Right. And the other thing, too, is obviously Chad's attorney gets the discovery in these cases, but he may not make sense of the discovery in the way the defense or the prosecution is going to use it. And a couple of times today, Mr. Wood kind of accused him of being on a little fishing expedition.
Yeah.
It was kind of obvious that Pryor was trying to get a little information about the direction some things were maybe still going in. I think one of them was about the FBI still going through Alex Cox's pings to see how many times he was at Chad Daybell's property from September until, I guess, he died.
Yeah, it was almost like Pryor's ears popped up and he was like, whoa. Are they still going through stuff?
Yeah. I think he was a little shocked about that.
Yeah.
There were some exhibits put in. It was just some documents from the Idaho State Police Forensics Department. It got a little confusing because it was talking about time pings, times where Alex was pinged and where, and there was a margin of error with, I guess, where the
Are you talking about the thing from Google where it was like 6 Okay, I was like, what is he? Like, I get it. Like, there's different time zones.
Right.
So what Google gives you is not, you have to adjust to your time zone.
Right.
Was basically all it was.
Yes.
And Pryor could not get it.
Oh, he could not even begin to wrap his head around what they were talking about. He looked so lost.
Yeah, you tweeted out that one thing. It was so funny.
Oh, yeah.
The little math thing. It
you
was
check out
funny.
our Twitter on down a little ways. It just, that little GIF reminded me of Pryor. He just looked so confused. I still don't think he understood.
No, he
even
doesn't.
when he said, "Okay, I'm good." If we were to ask him, "Okay, what did he just say?" I think Pryor, his head would have exploded.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the one thing I noticed about Pryor today is he really was being a stickler. And you said somebody on Court TV said he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah, it was a judge they were talking to, and she said that he was basically doing what he needs to do to prepare and to help him align with what he's going to have to argue when he goes to court, like when they start the trial.
Mm-hmm.
That he's preparing because he's asking, like, what's your specialty? What do you do? What does that entail? So he's kind of getting some background info basically on the witnesses, the detectives and everything. So
yeah, there was a couple of times where I sort of understood what he was asking Detective Ball, but there was one time where he said, "Okay, so tell me how you got the swabs." And the guy, Detective Ball, said, "I'm not sure what you're talking about."
Did you do it? I think he said, "Did you do the swabs?"
Yeah,
and he was like,
he said, "No, they were done at the coroner's office." And so then Pryor was asking about the chain of custody for the swabs. It almost seems like he's gonna. I think the only way Pryor maybe can go forth is just in the hopes that he can call into doubt some kind of a custody or procedural thing. I don't know. He seemed like he was really trying to go down that road, maybe in the future.
Yeah, and if he like objects one more time and says foundation, like,
Oh my gosh, I know.
it's like nails down the chalkboard.
Yeah, and I mean Judge Edens, anytime something else was entered in, he would say, "Mr. Pryor,"
Yeah.
like he was just waiting on objection or, I need the context, or I forgot the word he used, but it was
Foundation was a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, they just put out a minimal amount of information today. There was nothing that, I mean, like I said, we got some small pieces of information and then the body cam and the phone call, but you can tell prosecution definitely is just holding the big guns right now.
Yeah, and I was thinking, with the detective Ball up there, he does the specialty in the pings and all that kind of stuff. And I was waiting on Wood to go down that road with Chad, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he's going to do that. I mean, I would think he would.
You would think so, but
because he's trying to prove, that Chad conspired.
right. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he can call him back.
Yeah.
He can call him back up. So I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I think it was somebody different before lunch because it was Ron Ball called after lunch, and then Stubbs comes in after Ball. So we've got our detectives. The order messed up.
I thought Ball was last.
No, Stubbs was after Ball.
Well,
I know, right?
What about that? You're right.
I'm tired.
I don't know. Like, this is the first time, like, I've seen their names 9 million times.
Yeah.
And then now you put a face with it, and I'm like, oh.
Well, for me, when I'm live tweeting, it's really hard to retain what you're tweeting. So I'm listening and just sort of typing it as I go as it's being said. But for me, I kind of have to go back and read through those tweets after the hearing has ended so that I can sort of retain what was said because it's such a fast process. So
yeah, you're like a machine over there.
I'm a little bit, I don't want to say I'm a little bit lost. I know it was said today, but it's really hard to retain it when you're just typing it. So if I seem like a little off, I'm actually just going through my notes here and then things that jump out. It's been a long day.
Yes.
So Stubbs came on. Detective Ball was he was a really quick witness.
Yeah, it was just verifying 4 documents?
Yeah, it wasn't much. The one thing I did notice today, Chad was very active with his defense.
Yeah, he kept, he had stuff on that notepad.
Yeah, and he was correcting his lawyer a couple of times. I saw his lawyer would talk to him about things. He was looking at every piece of evidence that came in a couple of times about some evidence. He made some comments to his attorney.
Okay, and I want to just say, when they were talking, figuring out the hours, he's like shaking his head. Like Pryor asked the detective about, okay, so that would be about 43 hours. And so the detective is sitting there adding it in his head, and Chad's sitting there shaking his head, yes. I'm like, dude, you're on trial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I caught today was Stubbs talking about how he came to know this case. And initially, he was involved to locate what I'm assuming is the Jeep that was used in the attempt on Brandon Boudreaux's life. So what I kind of got from that, he said then later it was for the welfare check. So I am honestly wondering, and I don't know if we know this, were the Gilbert police investigating that shooting of Brandon before the welfare check? Because they were obviously trying to get Stubbs to locate that Jeep for them. Arizona called Stubbs.
Yeah, because that was October.
Yeah, so I guess maybe they've sort of been on, at least maybe Melanie, but it would have to be Chad and Lori.
Yeah.
So maybe the alarms started going off before the welfare check about them.
Yeah, because I think they asked Detective Hermosillo. See, I got it right. I wrote it
good
down.
for you.
See, I butchered it the first time though. They asked him a couple of things, and he said it was almost like he was hinting that he knew who they were before, so that would line up with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Stubbs was the one that had on the body cam when this is the day of the welfare check. You could tell that Pryor is going to call into question the fact that the second detective did not have his body cam on, because the detective, he said something about, we don't normally wear them.
Yeah, that's what Hermosillo said.
But then Pryor sort of says, well, but it does help you to make sure you accurately have documented what was said. And so I kind of feel like maybe at the trial, at least, Pryor may call into question the fact that body cam, I mean, he made big deals out of what I think is kind of nothing, because somebody had a body cam on.
Yeah.
It's not like it was never seen what happened at that welfare check.
Yeah, he was inferring that, saying that maybe he misunderstood, or that maybe he's not telling the truth is how I took it.
Yeah.
With the first detective. So
Right. So Stubbs was talking about, we got to hear the body cam footage, the audio from it.
oh my goodness.
Whoo, man, that
laid it all out there.
it really did. And I will say before we get into this, it is crazy how easily Lori flat out lied the entire time that body cam was on.
Pathological liar.
Just did not stutter, didn't miss a beat. If honestly, I can see sort of maybe how she avoided the mental health check back in Arizona.
Most definitely.
And you see again, I think maybe these investigators were onto her a little more than they let on. They're not going to let her know that they're really suspicious. But you can sort of see with hearing this audio how she lies with such ease that maybe that's part of the reason she has gotten as far as she has.
Yeah, she could easily pass a lie detector test, I bet you.
It's very scary.
Because she doesn't hesitate. And there's, they say sometimes when you're telling a lie, like your voice will fluctuate a little bit or something.
Yeah.
She's just dead on, like it's truth what she's saying.
Oh, yeah. She talks about her brother being there, and she calls the whole situation a big mess.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, well, what's all this? When she was talking to the cops. What's all this?
Yeah.
And the cops are like, oh, we kind of got a bad vibe. We're a little worried about JJ.
Yeah, because when the first two detectives were out there, they wouldn't. Chad and Alex lied.
Yeah.
And they knew they were lying.
Yeah. So, I
thought it was crazy. Like right at the beginning, like she starts saying, Kay's this horrible person. She's out to get her. All this stuff. And then she lays it on thick about Melanie.
Mm-hmm.
That JJ's with her friend in Arizona, and even throws in that Melanie has an autistic kid, and like this whole spiel is like it's all a lie, and she's just like rattling it off like it's nothing.
Yeah, but I'm sure she's done this her entire life. I mean, I guess it's just second nature to her.
Yeah.
It's sad though, because she's just saying, "Oh no, it's fine. He's with my friend Melanie," and she's talking about how there's lots of stuff going on. I've had to move a lot, and then she says, "My other brother is trying to kill me."
Yeah. What?
Which is Adam Cox, her other brother.
Because she has $1 million policy, by the way.
She made very clear in that body cam footage, she was the most upset about the money.
Yeah. Yeah, she said it again. Kay took the money. Kay got all the money.
Yeah. And she says, I've had to move a lot. And she's referring back to the email that Charles sent Adam back when everybody was alive about, I think she's referring to the email where it was clear that Charles knew there was probably an affair going on, and he had found Tammy's contact information and was thinking about reaching out to her.
Yeah.
So
I was reading something the other day, and it was talking about Lori, and it said that she constantly, when she lays something out for like a detective or whatever, that she's actually, it's about her.
Oh, yeah.
Like what she's saying is what she did.
Yeah, yeah.
with, lying with the email, sending that email. I mean, just all this stuff is basically what she does.
You call it what, projection?
Yeah. Like she's the one trying to kill Charles for his $1 million policy.
Right, yeah. And then she says in there, and he gave it to his sister, and we have
Kay
nothing.
changed it.
We have nothing. And Kay didn't change it?
Yeah, Kay changed it.
She knows Kay didn't change it.
No, we have the email from Charles to his attorney.
Right.
Saying, if something happens to me before I get this fixed, I want Kay, my sister Kay, to have, da-da-da-da-da.
Right. And she says, oh, we were married me and Charles were married for 15 years. We raised 5 kids, and he left me with nothing. And I'm just like, boo-hoo.
Yeah. And then you get into the whole spiel we were talking about a little bit ago about her. They're saying, and it's comical, really. The detectives are like, Daybell, going through that whole spiel again.
Right.
And she's in the background saying, he's an author. Yeah, he's an author. He has a lot of kids. Like she's saying all this stuff.
And she said he was a good friend of her brother.
Yeah.
They've been married for 2 weeks.
Yeah. 21 days they've been married. And
yeah. He's a good friend of my brother. Not, oh, we're married. We went to Hawaii 2 weeks ago. We're married. Lori also talked about, she told the cop that her plan was to move back to Arizona and put JJ back in school there because he was not thriving at this school in Rexburg, which we know is a lie. He wasn't really there long enough to get used to the school. But she was lying, saying that obviously she was lying that, JJ was deceased. But, she had this whole thing. We're going to go back to Arizona and go where we know.
Yeah, it's constant manipulation on her part.
Yeah, she's just trying to say anything. And I think probably in her mind, if she says things consistently enough, the cops are going to believe it.
Yeah.
I'm sure when they left that day, she was probably relieved and went on about her duties.
I wonder what she thought when they came back, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the second video, she seemed a little more exasperated.
Yeah.
I think she seemed a little bit more nervous.
But did you notice her saying, oh, yeah, this is my brother who protects me?
Yeah, she was saying that the reason she was staying in the apartment with Alex is because people were out to get her, and he made her feel safe.
Yes.
But nobody was out to get her.
Yeah, but then you hear the officer say, and this is how she's, like you said, she's gotten away with it. He's like, oh, well, now we know your side of the story. Now, was he just saying that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they knew they were married. I mean, I would think they knew that.
Yeah,
because
I think so too.
Detective Hermosillo, he said, I think he made some statements about that. They'd already been married, whatever.
Yeah, I don't really know what cops knew at that point, but they knew that JJ's grandma was concerned. Because Lori says, my sister-in-law is the one who called for the welfare check. And then she goes through this whole spiel about, oh, yeah, her son is a drug addict. His partner is a drug addict. They had JJ, couldn't take care of him. We got him at 8 months old. Kay wanted us to adopt him. And then she said, my ex passed away earlier this year.
Yeah, not that my brother who protects me over here, he shot and killed him.
Right.
Like, you didn't say that.
Yeah, I mean, she says he passed away. It sounds like it was peaceful.
Yeah.
It was anything but. And then she told the cops that Kay had been trying to fight her for JJ since the death of Charles.
And I just want to say, Larry and Kay, I love them. They're awesome.
I do too. There was a couple of times, gosh, man, I got teary-eyed watching Larry, especially when they were talking about the condition of JJ's body, which was graphic and just sickening in every way. And then a couple of times you'd see Larry and he would get tickled at stuff that was being said and he would kind of be giggling a little bit.
Yeah. And Kay, her eyes.
Oh, man.
When this body cam footage was going on, oh my goodness.
Yeah, you couldn't see all of Kay's face because she had the mask on, but we didn't need to see her mouth.
No, it was
her
like,
eyes,
what is she saying?
Her eyes told this whole story, and then her body language, just her posture.
Yeah.
And props to them because it would be, for me, I mean, it would be so easy to have an outburst or just stand up and scream or do whatever. And I just think the way they handled today was amazingly strong given what's going on.
Yeah.
And then to have to sit and hear these bold-faced lies about your brother and about yourself and about your son. And we know that Kay's son had addiction issues. She was almost making herself seem saint-like. Oh, they were drug addicts. We took him in because Kay wanted us to, just trying to make herself look good.
Yeah.
At a time where both the kids at this point are dead.
Yep.
Did you notice how loud she was when she was talking to the cops?
Oh, yeah.
She was trying to be very convincing.
Yep.
I always think that when somebody is having a conversation and maybe it's, not a pleasant one, you can try to seem calm and rational, but her voice just got progressively higher and louder, and she talked a lot faster.
Yep.
But Lori said that Kay was causing them so much trouble that she was the reason Lori would not tell anybody where they were.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lori, when Charles is alive, is going everywhere. Like, she's taking the kids and going to Hawaii. She's going here. She's going there. Yeah. She's the one moving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about it, Charles moved from Arizona to Texas.
Yeah.
And then back to Arizona.
Right.
So no, but that, I mean, when we started listening to that, when that was done, we both said, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah. But, if you even think about just her telling the cops that Tylee went to BYU, I mean, that's something that's pretty brazen, because all they had to do was drive. And I think BYU was super close to those townhomes.
Yeah.
It was not far. I mean, these guys could have, the fact that she lied to them, and they could have went a few minutes down the road and went to the college and said, "Hey, do you have a Tylee Ryan here?" I mean, that goes to show you how she probably is just so convinced of her own lies. I mean, there are people like that.
Yep.
And go ahead.
I mean, then you get the guy from BYU testifies, and she never even put in an application.
Right. And we all knew that. I mean, Tylee was in Rexburg a week before she was killed.
Yeah.
And at the same time, she's even telling Melanie Gibb that Tylee is going to BYU and she's out with friends.
Yeah.
So right after they move is when Melanie and David Warwick come into town. Or no. It was a couple of weeks after that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the 19th.
After they moved, yeah. So Tylee had been deceased for a couple of weeks at that point. But she's even doing it to Melanie Gibb. And to me, it's sort of like she did it to... I just can't, y'all. I mean, it's like she just created this whole lie universe.
Yeah.
Where there's an alternate reality.
And then...
Crypto is like the financial system, but different. It doesn't care where you come from, what you look like, your credit score, or your outrageous food delivery habits. Crypto is finance for everyone, everywhere, all the time. Visit Kraken.com/see what crypto can be to learn more. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures, Inc. View PVI's disclosures at Kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
This episode is brought to you by Mejuri. It's on. Your favorite fine jewelry brand Mejuri is hosting its biggest sale all year. Take 20% off everything. Yes, everything. When you spend $150 or more in store and online. Only until November 27th. From 14 karat solid gold and sterling silver to responsibly sourced diamonds and pearls. Now is the time to make jewelry your thing. Stop staring at your wish list and start saving at Mejuri.com.
Says, oh no, she's in the right. Like, she's following Jesus and this is what the Lord wants me to do and da-da-da. Hello?
What Lord you're talking about, but...
Yeah.
Maybe Lord Voldemort, but not the Lord.
We know who the father of lies is, and that's all she tells.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But Lori just couldn't understand. At one point, she says, why are the police coming to my door?
Yeah, why they're knocking on my door?
Yeah, and she said it was all a mess that was constantly causing her trouble.
Yeah.
And then Detective Stubbs asks her, did Chad's wife pass away recently? She said, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your husband, and we know you know about Tammy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. But Lori just said this was all a mess that was constantly causing her trouble.
Yeah.
And then Lori says he has a lot of kids.
Yeah. Like, and that whole conversation took place with the detective saying, Daybell, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting when she is in the courtroom and all of these lies are being played with her in the room. Can you imagine how crazy tense it's going to be in that courtroom for everybody?
Okay, could we please have the Family Feud X symbol? You know, like on Family Feud when they get something wrong, it's like,
yeah.
Could we please have that in there? And every time there's a lie, just to be like,
Our little lie detector?
Yeah, let Edens just hit the thing.
Well, we wouldn't hear anything then. It would just be a constant burr.
That's true. That's true.
For 8 hours.
That's true.
Yeah. So eventually, she says she's going to move back to Arizona and live with Melanie Gibb.
Yeah.
That's what she told the cops because she didn't want her name on anything.
Because she's running.
And Lori also said, I thought this was so funny. She said she canceled her life insurance policy because she was afraid somebody would kill her.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So the police leave and then they eventually come back.
Yeah.
The same day. And the problem is they can't get in touch with Melanie Gibb.
Yep.
She's not answering her calls. She's not returning messages. They called and texted her. And Melanie didn't answer. So they go back to see Lori. And Lori gives them they were going to see Frozen 2.
Yeah.
And
she's at the movies.
Yeah. That's where she's at the second visit that day. She says, oh, yeah, they're at Frozen. And the police, Detective Stubbs is trying to make a little joke. I guess, with people like her, you have to kind of keep them on an even keel to get what information you want. So if he's over there being really stern and just, hey, where's your kid? She's going to shut down, and he knows that. So he kind of starts joking with her for a second. He says that Lori says, oh, they're seeing Frozen. And Detective Stubbs says, oh, I'm Frozen too. And Lori says, oh, yeah, it's so cold here.
Yeah.
But Stubbs did a lot of the cell phone data. And I don't think we really need to get into all the cell phone data in this case because it is super confusing with the times. And we already know what they were getting at. There was nothing introduced about Chad's cell phone yet.
Nope.
But maybe they don't have to bring that in right now.
I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Yeah, he can call him back, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't know if we're going to hear anything super revealing until trial.
Yeah, I think he's holding it till then.
Yeah, because right now it's not really hard for them to prove that. But I guess at some point they're going to have to determine that Chad was home that day. I mean, we had the text to Tammy Daybell where Chad says, "Shot a raccoon, had to bury it. I'm going to write at BYU."
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking maybe he'll call him back tomorrow, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And go down that road. I don't know.
I don't know. They released him. It may be another witness that has some indication about Chad's cell phone. I don't know. It was 28,000 pages alone for Alex's data. If you printed it out. So I don't think we've even scratched the surface on what they have. And I've always said this would be a digital evidence case for the most part.
Yeah. But right now, the pings, I mean, it puts Alex at his house. But for right now, what they brought in as evidence doesn't link Chad to that.
Okay, but it was Chad's house.
Yes.
And the kids were in his backyard in two different spots. I don't know what you got to do, but it seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, like right now, the only thing you have on Chad right now is the Melanie Gibb testimony.
Right.
Where he asked her to lie.
Yes.
So that's why I think they have to at least bring that text in about the raccoon and all that.
Yeah, but that is still just asking Melanie Gibb to lie is enough to carry that over, right?
True.
I mean, I think that's what we understand.
That shows an overt act.
We're not lawyers, so we probably get some of this wrong, but that is an overt act, and that is what the preliminary is for.
Yeah.
So they had some visuals of maps about Alex's locations, and we didn't learn any new location stuff from this. And this is kind of the time where Pryor got very confused. And this is also the time where Edens kind of fussed at Pryor for cross-examining the witness when he's trying to object.
Yeah, he's done it several times.
Yeah. Man. We were thinking about tomorrow we're going to do the same thing. We're going to live tweet. We're going to try to stay on top of this for you guys. So we're going to try to finish this testimony on this podcast tonight. If it goes a little long, sorry, but I kind of feel like there's going to be so much more tomorrow that if we don't try to fit the best parts in tonight, it's going to be lost.
Yep.
All this was on like a Google Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, 28,000 pages.
Yeah. And so the one thing that he was saying, the detective was saying, was that for the most part, they were able to nail down Alex's location with a margin of error of 4 to 15 meters, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's letting the defense know, you're not going to be able to wiggle out of what we have.
Yeah. To me, it was like, okay, we have this on Alex, so yeah, we got it on you too.
Yeah. But do you think that they just never expected to get caught? Do you think that maybe they just thought the world was going to end a week and a half ago? Or do you think they were just stupid and did not understand how you can be tracked with your phone?
I think they just thought the world was going to end anyway, so it didn't matter. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it could be. Although I tell you, I've always said that a lot of this come from the cult and their beliefs, but when I heard Lori today say that about the insurance and we got nothing, and it was the way she said it, I almost do sort of feel like in some way maybe JJ's death, that was a big motivation. Just the way I heard her say that. I don't know that it was the total motivation, but I do you not get the feeling that maybe JJ was, I can't figure it out. I just don't know if it's all cult related or if it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of everything, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but with that detective trying to explain the UTC time zone -6 to get local time, man, Pryor's eyes were like rolling in the back of his head.
Yeah, it was pretty comical.
Yeah. They brought in the guy, like you said, from BYU who said Tylee was never enrolled. And the last witness of the day is Melanie Gibb, who I think is going to be the big key to this case.
Yeah. And we kind of got a little worried because Eden says, state, call your next witness. And he says, Melanie Gibb. So me and you both are like, okay, here we go. And then we wait.
And we wait some more.
And we hear crickets.
Yep.
And we're thinking, oh no.
I thought, is she having a panic attack or something? Because this is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm going to give props to Melanie Gibb. I know she's not the most popular person in this whole bunch. And I know, we didn't know until today that she did lie to police.
Yeah.
She flat out lied to police.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this conversation that we'll get to in a minute, man, she really handed it to Lori and Chad.
Yeah.
Who were both on a call that Melanie recorded with her. But Gibb talks about meeting Chad Daybell about 3 or 4 years ago in Utah. She said that the bulk of their relationship was talking about books Chad had written and eventually his relationship with Lori.
Yep.
Which was an affair. Call a spade a spade. And then Melanie didn't meet Lori until October of 2018 in Mesa at a church. I believe Jason Mao introduced them. That wasn't said today, but wasn't it Jason Mao that introduced
At one point he did, but I don't know if that's... I know they met at that one church, and he may have been there.
Yeah.
So, possibility.
Yeah. And then Gibb says she last saw Tylee in July or August of 2019 in Chandler, Arizona. So, probably right before they moved, but never saw her again. But she was one of the last people to see JJ alive.
Yeah. And I did see some comments saying that's what the delay was. And I don't, it's not verified, but they said that it was something about it was some of the wording that either the state used or Edens used or something. I want to go back and look at it. That she had just found something out or something. And so people were kind of speculating a little bit.
Oh.
Was it about what JJ was wearing? Because they said what he was wearing when he was found.
Yeah. We lost audio. I know it was red pajama bottoms.
Yes.
There was a blanket in there with him. And
so I did see some comments that that's possible, that that may have been what it was, because I want to go back and hear what the judge says.
Yeah.
Or the state. I don't know if Wood said it, but they said he said something about she just found something out, so she needed a minute.
Oh, wow.
So it was almost, they thought it was the pajamas, and she remembered that's what he had on.
Right.
So it was a little bit of emotional for her.
That had to be so tough. I mean, she lied, and I could sit here and say, well, I mean, obviously she was stupid to lie for them. I do believe Melanie Gibb was so deep under that spell with them that, I mean.
Okay, look at Lori. How manipulative she is.
Yeah. And Melanie thought she was with Kay. I mean, JJ was with Kay. She gave her this whole song and dance. So I can kind of see why Melanie wasn't worried about JJ's well-being up until the police
got the phone call. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she still has Lori in her ear and Chad in her ear saying, he's okay. We're protecting him. We've got him in, like we're hiding him, because of Kay. They're trying to kill him. I mean, not kill him, but they're trying to get him, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So she did lie and say he was with me, but now he's back with his mom.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people's problem just with Melanie Gibb in general, from what I've read, is the fact that they had this vision that Charles was going to die. He dies. They have a vision that Tammy was going to die, and she dies. And so when they're talking about JJ being a zombie, why didn't she listen up? And I will say, I feel the same way. I don't know if she was just that gullible, but I do understand why people don't like Melanie Gibb. I am not against her. I think that she is going to help convict these people. And she made some really bad decisions. And I think she was just drinking that Kool-Aid by the gallon.
But boy, like you said, she threw it back at them today on that recorded call.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one time, too, I was watching Kay while the audio of that phone call was playing, and Melanie had said something about, you don't put me in these positions if you love me. That's not what friends do. And Kay was shaking her head in agreement.
Yeah.
Kay seemed really, and I think Kay had made a statement around the time Melanie Gibb was going to start talking to the press that they're grateful she came forward.
Yeah.
So I think Kay knows more than we do, obviously, about the scope of what Melanie Gibb will bring to the preliminary and eventually the trial. So I'm not totally against Melanie Gibb. She's made questionable decisions, but I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and I think she understands now she was an idiot to believe them.
Yeah, and like we've said before, we're coming into this from the end, and she was in it from the beginning.
Right.
So we know what happened to the kids. She at that point didn't know.
Yeah.
So,
and I think too, the thing that people forget is this elaborate story about, I met Kay at the airport. We exchanged, and she's got JJ.
I told her I had breast cancer.
Oh man, that's bad juju.
Yeah.
I mean,
like it's crazy. It was funny, the one part. So Lori says, Kay's dark.
Oh yeah.
And Melanie goes, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I've only met her one time, and she seemed like a nice person.
Yeah, I mean, and from what we've understood, the police did not ask Melanie to do this call.
No, she did it on her own.
Now, look, I'll tell you, when people know they're recording and they're talking to somebody and they're in control of that, they do act a little more, I don't want to say professional, but they get to the point and they understand this is going to be heard by authorities and whoever else. But I thought Melanie Gibb just really laid it out to the both of them.
Yeah. And it was heated.
Right. But you got to consider at this point, nobody's been arrested. Alex is still alive. To me, I would have been scared to death to do something like that, because at this point, I think Melanie is starting to put two and two together and realizing these people may be murderers.
Yeah.
And she did the call, and she socked it to them as far as telling them essentially that they were huge sinners.
Yeah. And we forgot to mention that when they called her as the next witness, like Chad's face got red.
Oh, yeah, it did get a lot redder than it had been all day when they called Melanie Gibb. And
he sat with his hands like praying hands, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing, too, that I thought it was a really good move by Prosecutor Wood, just to show like the lies, which is, Chad's a friend of my brother's, but then, how many times did you see Chad at Lori's when you were there? About 2, 3, 4 times. He was there every day. They were holding hands and hugging and kissing. they wanted to be together as soon as possible. So I think they really fit that in to sort of just to show again how petty her lies were. I mean,
when she said that the 2 or 3 times, his eyebrows went up.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
But obviously Melanie didn't see Tylee at all that weekend. And I understand if that really broke her today, because everything seemingly was okay-ish when she was there. I mean, Lori was talking about JJ jumping on the cabinets and stuff, but I mean, at this point, you don't think they're murderers, and you see Uncle Alex with what we think was a sleeping JJ on his shoulder.
Okay, can we throw out and we hardly ever do this, like our theories or whatever. My theory about why they said that about him that morning, I'm gonna throw that out. I'm gonna throw this out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We just was thinking, and I was like, something's not right about that. So we wondered if Lori said that about JJ acting out that morning was to cover in case Melanie and David heard something.
Yeah, and I thought that was a good point. We don't know exactly when JJ was killed that night or that morning. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the best. That's kind of the best explanation I could think.
Yeah, I don't know why why do you say that?
Yeah.
Like it would have been very easily, you could have said it when he asked where JJ was, you could have very easily said, oh, he went with Alex to breakfast or anything.
Right. It couldn't have.
But you had to make up a whole spiel about him being loud and jumping around and yelling and whatever.
Yeah,
so
that's a really good point. But she never saw JJ that morning, and they left.
Yeah, they got in the truck and drove home.
Yeah, and then she also talked about Lori said that she would prefer for JJ to live with Kay's other son. They had kids who JJ got along with really well. I mean, it was just very elaborate.
Yeah.
And I just I wonder what Kay, in retrospect, did she ever see any signs of this? Of Lori other than, because we said, she was a great mom and that sort of thing. And then you get the Joe Ryan documents and you find out she's not been a great mom at all.
Yeah.
She has been a hot mess. And I feel bad for Kay because I'm sure to some degree they feel somewhat responsible because they allowed Charles and Lori to adopt JJ. And I just hope they're not thinking about that. I hope they're not going down that road. It's a rabbit hole that it's pointless to go down, but I'm sure it would be natural.
Yeah. And about the conversation that was recorded. So when Melanie called Chad, and that's what started when she recorded this whole conversation. What he says to her when she calls, he says, "Hello, sweet Melanie." Like that reminded me, what's that movie? I don't know if that's a scary movie.
Which one?
I don't know. Is it the
I'm sorry, what'd you say? My daughter walked in here and I got really distracted. What was
talking about when Chad answered Melanie's phone call, he said, "Hello, sweet Melanie." Oh, I know what it was. The Shining. Doesn't he say something on there?
No, you're talking about Silence of the Lambs.
That's it. That's it.
Hello, Clarice.
That's it. Yes, that's what went in my mind.
Oh yeah, it does.
See?
Ooh, I just got goosebumps.
See, that's where when he said that, I was like, ugh.
Yeah, and so Lori on this phone call, Melanie Gibb calls Lori, and the one that was recorded that was played in court today, and she says, Lori's like, "Hi, Melanie. I just want you to know everything's fine. The police have been here, and I by the way, I told the police that JJ was with you."
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah.
And that's when Lori asked Melanie to go take pictures of random kids running around.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah. But Lori told Melanie that she had informed police that she would pick JJ up from Melanie when she drove back to Arizona, as if she were moving back. And then, Lori goes through this whole spill about how Kay's trying to kidnap JJ, and she had received emails that were threatening that. And
again, on this one, Kay's like shaking her head.
Oh yeah, Kay, bless her heart. She, I would have been standing up. I'm sorry. I would never do well in a situation like this in court.
Yeah.
But Melanie said that Lori sounded fine, but Chad, not so fine.
Yeah, he was a little nervous.
Yeah. Oh, man, he gulped today.
So when Melanie makes the phone call back, and this is the recorded call, and he says, the whole "hello, Clarice," all that stuff. She asks where they are, and they won't answer.
Yeah.
So they're, we're just hanging out, we're around, and then she gets into. Lori says JJ is safe and happy.
Oh yeah,
is what she said.
Oh man, that was chilling.
Yeah.
That was really chilling. And then to hear her say it with her voice. In this case, we haven't had a lot of audio and video released. I told Fruit Loop the other day, it's weird. It's like, it's odd to see videos of the kids, or not so much Lori and Chad, but really the kids, because they in my mind, they seem like still pictures, because that's mainly all we've seen. But then to hear Lori just say that, oh yeah, he's safe, he's fine.
Yeah. Then she gets into what Alex said when she talked, because we know Melanie Gibb called Alex and talked to him, and he tells her that she wouldn't want to know where JJ is, and he wouldn't be found.
Yeah.
Okay, then Chad throws this in. Chad pops back in because Melanie Gibb says something about Tammy dying. And then he pops in and says something about, you've been listening to my sister-in-law who thinks, this was that whatever, he killed her or whatever. And he pops in and says that, I begged her to go to the doctor. Like that her health was declining. Like he's saying all this stuff on this call.
She was getting weaker and her heart was failing.
Weaker by the day.
I mean, nobody else has said that. And then he also said, well, my kids were there. They came 20 minutes after I found her. And I'm like, well, yeah, but what happened in the hours before they were there when you probably killed her or Alex? But I always thought Emma was in the house.
He said it was Garth.
Okay.
He said Garth was there.
Right.
When he woke up, I guess, or something.
But you never know. Garth could have come in late. I mean, and she's already in the bed. I don't feel any different about whether or not she was murdered. Because it doesn't matter if Garth was there. He could have come in late and she's already in the bed and she's dead.
Yeah. It was just that whole thing was weird. And then they get into that whole Mormon scripture stuff.
Yeah.
And going back and forth with that.
Yeah.
And
I didn't follow along with that very good. It was just, I noticed towards the end of the conversation, they were sort of arguing without shouting.
Yeah.
It increasingly got louder and louder, and they were talking over each other a lot more. And at one point she says that Melanie's an adversary, and I'm sorry you're friends with those who are against me. And she did say that most of her family, Lori said most of her family was out to get her.
Yeah.
So that doesn't seem like just Adam.
Yeah.
Maybe there was some issues with, but then again, who knows? She could just be doing a poor me, everybody hates me.
Yep.
And Melanie told her, you've opened up dark portals and dark junk. And she questioned her salvation. And Lori says, you better check with the Lord again. A lot of it was scripture based towards the end, and it was very confusing for me. But that sort of wrapped up the hearing today. I mean, like I said, we didn't get this dump of jaw-dropping evidence, but we did get some little gaps filled in, I think, that tells a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And it kind of tells the scope of the deception. And to me, at least with the phone call and the body cams, I see how Lori was able to fool so many people. Because if we didn't know her from Adam, and not Adam, but that's a saying, but you know what I mean? You would think, okay, well, she's got a sister-in-law that wants the kid, and she's raised this kid since 8 months. So I do see how Lori was able to go through most of her life convincing people of lies, because she's just that good at it.
Oh, she really is.
Yeah. But we're going to do this again tomorrow. We're going to end this. I'm going to go hang out with my kids for a bit. 11 a.m. Eastern time, we will do what we did today. We will probably do a quick podcast at lunch. We'll do a big one tomorrow night, and I will live tweet. You can follow us on Twitter at Pretty Lies Alibi. And we also have a YouTube page. Look us up under Pretty Lies and Alibis. We are putting our podcast up there for people who prefer the YouTube version of it. We're also on all the different podcast platforms.
Yeah, and that would depend on, we don't know what's coming tomorrow.
No, I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know how many witnesses they have. I kind of thought maybe Melanie was close to the end. I think David Warwick is on the list, so I assume they're going to call him.
Yep.
Not sure about anybody else. I don't see him calling Oh, my brain is like, we're done.
Kay and Larry, I got it.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
having my back there.
You're welcome.
I don't think they'll call them for the preliminary. I do think at the trial they will.
Yeah.
But we'll keep you guys updated. Not sure how long this will go tomorrow, but we'll be here for every minute of it. And thanks to everybody who followed today. We got a ton of new Twitter followers and subscribers on YouTube. And we're just glad that you guys are hanging out with us for this. And if you have any questions, shoot them our way on Twitter. We'll try to cover it in the next podcast. But I'm going to check out, and we will see you guys in the morning.
Good night.
Looking to save big on holiday shopping? Xfinity Mobile has you covered. Learn how you can get a free mobile line for up to 2 years with qualifying Xfinity Internet plans. Plus, see how you can also get up to $800 off an eligible 5G phone during our Black Friday sale, now through December 5th. Go to Xfinity.com/Black Friday sale, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet.
This episode is brought to you by Klaviyo, the platform that powers smarter digital relationships. With Klaviyo, you can activate all your customer data in real time, connect seamlessly with your customers across all channels, guide your marketing strategy with AI-powered insights, recommendations, and automated assistance. Deliver experiences that feel individually designed at scale and grow your business faster. Power smarter digital relationships with Klaviyo. Learn more at klaviyo.com/Spotify. That's KLAVIYO.com/Spotify.